If you had to build a personal brand from scratch, what would be the first thing that you did?
Niche it out from day one.
How has influence marketing changed in the past 8 years?
Companies have basically found that it's easier to steal somebody else's trust than it is to build it themselves. As a business owner, it's really easy to just say yes to every bit of revenue, but not all revenue is good revenue.
Welcome to Green Country Conversations, the podcast where we hear about the stories and learn about the people that make Northeast Oklahoma truly great. I'm your host, Maverick Pitchford, owner of Bison Ridge Insurance, and today we're going to have on a guest who has always had a hunger to be an entrepreneur, had a love for digital marketing, and he's turned those two things into a thriving business. But first, let's take a minute and thank our sponsors.
This is where the sponsored portion of the podcast is supposed to be, but we don't have a sponsor yet. Please help us avoid this awkwardness next time. Please sponsor this podcast. If you're interested, reach out to me, Maverick at bisonridgeinsurance.com.
Our guest today is Alex Cobb, the founder of Cobbify Marketing. With over 8 years in the industry, Alex has built a unique agency that connects YouTubers and influencers with brands to create real revenue. His journey has taken him from Tulsa to California, Texas, and now Oklahoma City. But with 65% of his businesses still rooted in Green Country, he's here often, deeply connected to the area. Today, we'll discuss his entrepreneurial path, the evolution of digital marketing, and how brands can win in today's content-driven world. Alex, welcome to the show.
What's up?
What's up, man? Okay, so side note for everyone listening, if you consume any of my content at all, this is the man who edits it all. So super excited for this conversation. I know it's going to go in some good paths, and I'm really excited to get started here.
Let's go. Hit me with one of those weird questions I always hear.
Yeah. Let's go. So let's go with the first one. What was your favorite video you've ever worked on? If you could only pick one. If someone was like, "Hey, Alex, give me the video for your career as of now," what is it?
Honestly, the most fun I had on a video is a video that's not up anymore.
Really?
It was with Steven, with the 918 agent, and we went and filmed the behind the scenes of a haunted house. So we were there before it got dark. We watched them all get their makeup done, their costumes. We filmed all of it. We had 5 hours of footage, edited it down to a 20-minute long vlog. We sent it over to the company. So we got to see they took us on this back path where we could see the scare actors getting in position and scaring people. Then we got to go through the haunted house and
That's
everything.
Sick.
It was super cool, a lot of fun. And then they were like, "Oh yeah, we're not super picky about anything." And then after the video came out, they had we asked them to approve it, and they didn't get back to us. And then we kept waiting and waiting. And after 2 weeks, we were like, "Halloween's in 3 days. We have no choice but to post it." It went up for 3 hours and was already over 100 views, which is big. It was going to do big numbers, I think. And they were like, "No, we can't have this in it. You got to re-edit it." And we were both just like, "It's not. This is what we envisioned for the video. So this is it. We're not going to re-edit it." So we didn't put it back up. He still has a short form video up, and it had 500,000 views, something like that.
That's crazy. Yeah, I've seen the short form. That's super cool, and it's crazy that they just would do that. That's cool. That's your favorite video though. If you had to describe your job to a 5-year-old, how would you explain it? I know you have young kids. I have young kids. My son all the time asks what I do. I know you've seen it in my clips, but he still is convinced I sell instruments. And so, I need to do a better job about explaining my job to him. So how do you explain it to your kids?
That's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I've edited little videos of my son turning him into Spider-Man and stuff.
Yeah.
So he sees that, but if I was explaining it to a random 5-year-old, I'd be something I'd be think about your favorite toy car.
Yeah.
And you could tell somebody about your toy car all day long, but what if you could show them on your phone?
Yeah, that's super cool.
Video.
That's super cool. If you brought up Vlad and Nikki, it's this YouTube channel my son watches.
Yeah.
He'd be like, "Oh, I instantly know what videos are." He loves that stuff. So, fun fact: this Vlad and Nikki channel, I was looking the other day at the most followed YouTubes. They're the third most followed YouTube in all of the world. It's crazy.
They make a lot of money.
It's insane. What's one marketing trend that most people don't realize is in the future that you think? Something if you could be this is what I think is going to happen in the next 24 months. What's something you think?
Yeah, I think businesses are doing a better job of picking up on it than individuals are. Obviously, I think number one is AI. Some people are hopping on it, some people aren't. But AI is huge. They got AI employees and stuff now. It's crazy.
Yeah.
but AI is huge. And then I also think just creating a personal brand. I think a lot of people like, even if you are doing like videos where you're faceless or you're like something random like that, you still have to create a personal brand of some sort. And I think also a lot of people are missing out on the opportunity to like optimize long form content on short form, which we do for your stuff. And a lot of people I work with, we do it, but there's still just a huge number of people who keep everything on their YouTube separate from their other platforms. And it really like stunts growth for a channel.
Yeah, and to me, like, I mean, we have these conversations before, but if you're making the content already, you might as well break it up and post it everywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like seems like the best way to do it.
Like, you're limiting yourself if you record a video for just one way. Like if you record a video with like the thought of like, this is only going on YouTube and I won't post it anywhere else, you're already missing out on a lot.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I agree completely. Well, funny enough that you bring up the personal brand. If you had to build a personal brand from scratch, what would be the first thing that you did? So, you're like, hey, I'm Alex. I'm going to start a personal brand. What's the very first thing that you do?
Very first thing would be obviously just starting, because you're going to change 100 things. But like outside of that, I would say niche it out from day one. So like your stuff, like from day one has been those little funny reels of like, somebody falling off a balcony and he dropped a gingerbread cookie into your whatever.
People love that one.
It's so funny. It's like I would just niche out if you're going to be funny, educational. I would just niche it out that way from day one, so you don't ever have to like rebuild your audience.
And I think that like it's natural, at least for me, and like talking to like Steven and the other guys, like it's natural. Your niche becomes natural if it's truly you, right? Like Steven very, very blatantly told me at the beginning of like me starting, he was like, I would never do those funny videos because he was like, I just don't feel comfortable doing that. Like that's not like my personality, which I don't fully believe because he is a funny guy, but you know what I mean? Like he was just like, for my content, that's not exactly what I had planned. But for me, like I think one thing for me is like being in insurance, it's boring. So I have to make it somewhat, fun, because like no one's going to watch a video if I'm just be like, hey, this is, auto insurance, home insurance, whatever. So, I think that's really important.
I'd add on to that too. Like, especially like, so first thing is niche out. Second thing is you have to be able to figure out a way to do the same thing everybody's doing, but differentiate yourself. And that's a good thing that you do that separates you from other insurance agents and stuff like that. Like, there's small agencies in Oklahoma, insurance agencies in Oklahoma that are seeing your content and are already starting to figure out a way to do the same thing you're doing. And you haven't even gotten to the level of success that we want to get it to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. I was just telling my wife the other day that there's an insurance agent, and I'm upset that he did this, but the video I made of the snow, made the same video this last snowstorm. And I was like, that's kind of cool to see. Cause like, they say, the greatest compliment you can have is someone, copying your work. And that's exactly what it is. So that's really cool. Okay. One last icebreaker before we get into the industry talk, which we've already kind of danced around it, but, you've moved around a lot, obviously, over, the past couple years. What's one place that truly feels like home to you?
Honestly, we make everything at home. So as long as like, my wife and kids, we're all together. Like, we'll pretty much make anything at home. We can pretty much adapt to any
That's
situation. Awesome. We lived with her grandma for a little bit in the last year. We lived with my mom for a little bit in the last year. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, and now we're in a 4-bedroom house, and none of them feel any different.
Yeah, it's all about the people you're with, not where you're at, right?
For sure. We're definitely not home people. Like, we are now that we have a house. We definitely are home a lot more, but we're in the backyard constantly, or we're like...
That's awesome.
...trying to build stuff up, but we like to leave. We go out and explore the area and stuff like that, so we're always out.
Yeah, I'm not a homebody either. I like to go out and enjoy it and journey around, so that's awesome. Okay, let's get into the actual industry talk here, the meat of this conversation. I want to talk about... what led you to start Cobbify Marketing? Obviously, you and I have had this conversation, but I think it'd be cool to kind of just dive in a little bit deeper into the weeds. Like, give us your origin story.
Yeah. So when I first started marketing, I was quite literally. So my dad has been in the restaurant business for, obviously my whole life, but like, so a little bit of a story about him too is he is now making like the most amount of money he's ever made in the restaurant business, and he's been in it for 30 plus years, and he's still not at the GM level. He's still like assistant kitchen managers and stuff like that. But he goes and works in like big restaurants to where that's cool. It's the same as a GM somewhere. But whenever I was born, so I have 6 brothers, seven boys total.
Wow.
And when I was born, right in the middle, fourth one, my dad was making $28,000 a year.
Wow.
And it wasn't worth my mom working because they'd have to pay for daycare. So she stayed home. And so they were living off of $28,000 a year with 4 kids.
Yeah.
Now, I couldn't imagine that now. But
That's insane.
so whenever I was thinking about a career and a job and stuff like that, I knew I didn't want to get into something that wouldn't be something I could stay in forever. I didn't want to start a job so my first job was at the YMCA, and I made $7 an hour. And I was like, here's like $7.50, and I was like, this is terrible because I feel like I'm always gone, but I also wasn't. I was like 16, so I was working like 14 hours a week, but it felt like I was never home. And I was like, I want to find a career. So I started looking into stuff, and marketing was I was always making little fun videos as a kid and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is cool. Let's do this. And I just always set like new goals of like what I wanted to achieve. So I was like, I want to find a marketing job. So I found one like writing SEO blogs. And then I was like, okay, but I want to do more video content stuff. So I worked there for a little bit, and then and in the marketing world, like people move jobs around a lot.
Right.
So they don't stay put for a long period of time, just because the skill set that you get hired for is always different no matter what job you're getting. But I was like, I want to get more into videography and stuff like that. Like I really enjoy that, so I want to try to find that. So my goal for like 4 years was just build up a portfolio and get a job in video, and it never happened. So like it just never happened. And finally, I got a job in last year doing video for a podcast for a company in Tulsa, and worked there for like 8 months. And then stuff was kind of happening with my wife's grandma. We were also thinking about moving to California, and we were like, it's just the right move. Let's do it. So I quit the job. We moved to LA, and at the time, I was editing videos for 918 Agent Steven, and then also Billy Visco, who's in Tulsa as well. And I was making like $1,000 a month on average with them, with like per video rates and stuff like that. And I was like, all right, I have a little bit of money. Let's live with your grandma. We moved in with her grandma, and I was like, you know what? I have an opportunity to like take this serious right now. So I started driving down to LA every day, and I ended up meeting David Dobrik's friends, like his whole squad. I ended up meeting all of them, started editing videos for all of them. And then from there, met a couple other YouTubers, and then all of a sudden, before I knew it, I was making like $5,000 a month, and I was like, okay, this could be a full-time thing.
Right.
So I just started banking on that $5,000 a month, and then we were like, well, let's move to Texas. And right when we started talking about moving to Texas, I lost like 4 of the clients and dropped down to like $1,500 a month, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's not good.
Yeah.
And then I started realizing, like, okay, this is the entrepreneur world. Like, if I want to start a business, I'm going to do it. So I just started figuring out, like, how I could niche out into it, and started editing for YouTubers and stuff like that. And then even since then, I think I have you, 918 Agent, and Billy Visco, and that's all I do for editing now. Everything
That's
else
cool.
I do is filming and editing or different things. But so yeah, the origin story there was I just quit my job, and I was like, all right, I'm in marketing already. Let's just try to grow something, and ended up working for a little bit. Then it failed again, and then it started working again. And then once I got to Texas, I just went like full head into it. And actually, that company I quit to move to California is now one of my highest paying clients. That's
awesome.
I go up to Tulsa several times a month to make videos for them too. So
That's sick. Yeah, I think that we talk about all the time, like you have to take that leap of faith, right? You have to be willing to put it out there. I've said multiple times on this podcast, you have to be willing to take the jump off that cliff and then figure out how to build the plane on the way down. And that's exactly what the entrepreneurial journey is. You were like, I'm going to figure this out. And, I built it up to X amount of dollars. Oh, hang on. It's back down lower. I got to figure it out again. And that's the part of the game that I really enjoy. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs really enjoy, because it's like, that's the challenge, right? That's the thing that gets us up every day and gets us going and says, okay, what challenge can I attack today? So I loved hearing that. That's a great story. So obviously you've been in this for a couple years now. How has influence marketing changed in the past 8 years?
like for influencers.
Yeah, just in general, like your world, how has it changed in the last 8 years, or however long you feel like you've been really in the industry?
Yeah, I mean, 8 years ago would be a brand would reach out to you directly, offer you some bit of money to literally speak for 5 seconds in a video about their brand. And now it's, first of all, that money has quadrupled. And
Yeah.
now there's companies that send a whole production team out, and like there's dealerships that will send a car out for you to test drive for a week, and they'll bring it in on a trailer, bring a whole production crew, film with you for the whole day, and pay you $50,000 for it. It's like,
That's cool. Yeah.
what? It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think it's because they know the power of like the impact that you have on social media, right? And like those numbers are huge. And we talk about this all the time, but like whenever you have those followers, like they're invested in you. And so it's not just like a commercial on the TV that they're going to spend that money on anyways for their marketing or for their commercials. You know, they're using someone who's already has that influence with those people. And I think that's why it's so impactful. It's crazy the world that, and I think that even, and I don't know crazy about it, not nearly as much as you. And, but even what I know, like it's crazy how much you can make and how much you can do in that world. Like it's insane. It's crazy.
There's literally like, companies have basically found that it's easier to steal somebody else's trust than it is to build it themselves. So I could sit here all day long and just tell you all about this new pair of headphones I'm selling and how great they are and how good they are on your ears and whatever. But you know I'm selling it to you. Now if they hire a brand or an individual influencer to do something for it, all of a sudden now it's like, okay, I trust this guy. Let's watch this video. And it's like, oh, he uses those headphones. I want to use, and it's all a trust game at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's super cool. What do you feel like most businesses are getting wrong when it comes working with influencers? Like if there's one thing from your side of it, if you see something, you're like, if I was that business, I would handle this way. What is something you can kind of speak to that about?
Yeah, I think limiting creative control is the number one thing. So they want to hire these influencers, like they're essentially paying for a spot on their platform. And the problem is they're not optimizing the content for that platform. They're keeping it their style. So there was a video we did that we did for Jack Links, like the beef jerky, with Squid Games and Netflix. And we did it was a whole production shoot. I flew out to LA for like 4 hours just to grab footage to edit it. It was this whole thing. And we optimized it for the platform it was going on to, and they weren't a fan of it. So they wanted us to change it to optimize for their platform, and the video completely flopped and did nothing. There's no numbers there or anything. And I think if they would have let it be optimized for the channel it was going on, it would have definitely performed better and maybe had a better outcome. But that video's been
for sure
since deleted, I believe. But
that's crazy.
Yeah,
and like these companies, like I feel like they're like, hey, we're the big company, you know, we know better than everyone else. But really, like, it's funny hearing you say this, 'cause I just listened to a podcast with my favorite CEO, Dana White. Not a huge fan of how he lives his life, but I love how he runs his business. And he actually spoke exactly to that. They were talking about how Power Slap, how it's grown so much over the past, 2 years or whatever. And he was like, he's using influencers to grow that business. And he said it, and he's talking about the UFC too. He said exactly what you said. He was like, I don't bring these influencers in or these creators in and then tell them how I want them to do it. They're the experts. I bring them in and give them front row access to the UFC fight. And then they're making content and it's growing my business on social media. He was like, I'm an old man. Like, I'm not going to know how to do it like they do. So like, it's cool to hear you say that, but also hear him say that. As you said that, I was like, that's exactly what Dana White said. So that's super cool.
Yeah.
What do you feel like the most underrated marketing strategy is right now?
Ooh, underrated marketing strategy. Honestly, going back to a personal brand, I don't think a lot of people are utilizing the free organic results they can get from that.
Yeah.
Like, we could run Bison Ridge ads all day long, and I guarantee you it's not going to do as well as the free stuff you're putting out right now. Obviously, the more ad money you put behind it, the bigger opportunity there is for you to get more clients. But nothing beats an organic client. It's free.
Yeah. I think about that all the time whenever I'm thinking about, like, I'm not ever going to outspend State Farm with their marketing, right? But like, I can have a lot more of an impact on the people who are watching my videos and consuming my content than they will, because like those people are the people that I'm going to church with, or I'm seeing at the football games, or I'm going to, my kids go to school, those type of things. And it's all about just staying top of mind. That's why I do everything that I do. And you know that, because we've had this conversation, but, it's all about, just staying up and making sure people know that I still exist, basically.
Yeah. It's all about awareness at the end of the day. You want them, when they think about an auto policy in the next 6 months, you want them to think, oh, what was that one company I saw? And then then it gets down. You can get down as deep as you want about the name, the logo, all that, and how that affects when they think about it, how they can find you and stuff like that. But you've got a good website, you've got a good logo, you've got a good, easy to remember name. You're in a good little city that is also next to big cities, so you're not just limited on your. It has potential there to grow as far as you want it to. But at the end of the day, I don't think you want to be State Farm, and you're not going to spend the same as them anyway. So
no. Yeah, for sure.
Do it the way you're going to do it.
Exactly. I like that. What do you think makes a great influencer brand partnership? So in all the partnerships you've seen, and I know you've already said creative, the ability to be creative, but like on the ones that you've seen maybe that have done well, what's made them do well? And then what, maybe one that you've seen not go well, what's something that you've seen?
Yeah, obviously tying back to the optimizing to the platform, but then on to give you another answer that's not just the same one. I think honestly just being like communicating well. I don't think a lot of brands communicate what they want well, and then deadlines come and then videos get posted that aren't up to like the standard, and then that brand partnership just dies off, and you don't, because at the end of the day for the creator, their goal is to have an existing relationship so they can consistently push this brand and consistently bring in income for their business, for their content business. And I think at the end of the day, just being more communicative, I think that's a word. And just being more upfront about what they want and what they're looking for is going to be better than like just throwing it to the wolves like that. And that's a hard fine line to run on, because you're wanting creative control, but you're also wanting to know exactly what to do. So it's a hard. And at the end of the day, it also comes down to like, if you have a good editor and a good videographer, it's going to happen anyway, because they're gonna pull the best of the brand and the influencer to create a good relationship. But if you're editing it yourself, which a lot of creators do, I think brands could communicate better.
For sure. Yeah. Speaking of editing yourself, I mean, I tried multiple times when I first started Buy Search Insurance to do, content. It's just, whenever you are running a business, you have to realize, I just had a conversation about this in the last podcast. You have to realize that you have to let the people that are good at what they do what they need to do. And like, so that's why you're so great, because you're good at what you do. I'm sure I could put out a video. It's not going to be nearly as good as what you do. And it's also going to take me more time. It's going to cause me more stress. And ultimately, I'm not going to want to do it because it's not something that's like in my wheelhouse, right? So hiring that out and allowing you to do it has made the biggest difference for me. Like, and I tell everyone that, like, if you can make that investment and truly do that, that's the only way I can see as a business owner sticking with the content.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even whenever I have to create content for my own content agency, like it's a lot harder than you would think. Just because, like, first of all, like, some of the stuff that and I'm sure this has happened to you before, but some of the stuff that, like, when I go through the footage and I put it in there, you're like, oh, I wish that didn't make the final cut. But then it ends up being like somebody's favorite part of the video, or the point that somebody sees where they're like, okay, I'm going to hire this guy or whatever. It's just nice to always have a second set of eyes anyway, just to overlook, because there's times that I record myself and I'm like, ooh, I hate that. And then my wife's like, what? That's really funny. You got to post that. And actually that happened with one of our personal content pieces, and now it's sitting at like 3.2 million views on Instagram. And I absolutely hated it. And I was a little nervous about, like, because it's a video where, like, we're making fun of, like, parenting and stuff like that. I'm not actually like this as a dad. Most people aren't, but it's just funny to make fun of. And it's literally like I walk into the house and she's been watching the kids. The house is spotless, whatever. And then we went and flipped the dining room table and dumped, like, food all over the floor, and, like, we just made a huge mess, just had fun with it. And it took 15 minutes to clean up. But whenever I walk into the door, it's like, oh my God, this guy let the kids do whatever they want. And all the comments in there are like, it's like 50% are like, oh my God, this is so true. This is how my house gets, or whatever. And then, like, the other 50% are like, this is why, like, dads need to be more involved, and like what. And it's like, you're totally missing, like, point. But it's just, that was one of those videos where I absolutely hated it, and I was like, I am not posting this. And she was like,
that's so funny.
Yeah, and then that's so funny. Really well,
So two things off of what you just said. One, I went and looked at your personal social media and saw that video. crazy thing. Before I even followed you, before anything, I had liked that video. So at some point it came across my reel and I liked it. And then I was like, wow, that's crazy. Obviously I didn't remember seeing that or anything, but like, obviously I did because it was liked. So that's funny. But then also, speaking of like how having a second set of eyes, and I think having you as my second set of eyes as content helps. I was just talking to my wife, Monday or so when I posted this last week's vlog. There's a sentence that I said where I said the wrong word. And I was like, this is so stupid, but like, I was like, did you hear that? Did you hear that bad thing that like I sounded dumb? And she was like, what? And she named something else. And I was like, well, I didn't even think that sounded bad, but I guess. And then I was like, no, this part. She's like, oh, I didn't even notice that. So it's so funny how like having people look at your content and view it through their set eyes, like they're going to see things completely different than you. And then of course, as like the creator, and I'm sure you can speak to this of your stuff, like it's, you're always going to be like the worst on it. Like I'm like, this is stupid. Like I hate doing, you know what I mean? Like I do not like being in front of the camera, but if it's going to be the reason that my kids, and this is an extreme example, right? But if this video is going to benefit my business, which then is going to take care of my kids, I'll be in front of a camera awkwardly. No, I'll be in front of a camera 40 hours a week if I have to. You know what I mean? Like that's how those first set of videos I sent you, I told one of our youth kids this the other day that I literally was so embarrassed to do that. And I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, this is so stupid. But deep down, I knew that like, this is the only way. I mean, there's other ways, but like the way I can grow my business that is going to be obtainable and, sustainable for the future. Right. Exactly. And, I literally had to tell myself like this ultimately affects your family and your kids. And it's like, okay, well, I'll get in front of the camera and slam myself against the car while a lady sits in the parking lot and stares at me like I'm a crazy person. If that's what I have to do. I will
say, like, when I first started editing for you, I would notice parts and clips where you would be like, like looking around, making sure nobody's watching. And now it's so funny because now you send me a video and it's like, you're just doing it. And there's
I don't care.
In the background and whatever. And also, people won't know this, but one of the, so after the first vlog, I think it was the second vlog or third vlog. So the first, I think your second vlog was like an hour long. And it was so funny. People won't know this because it was clips that were cut out, but there was so many clips of you being like, okay, I'm going to talk about this. And then you start talking. Like, oh yeah, my wife said to stop rambling, so I got to stop now. And it's just, it was just like, I'm over here cracking up. People will never know that was in there until right now.
No.
But it's just,
right.
It's just so funny that like, and that's like gold. And I think we've talked about like making like a blooper video and stuff like that too, because it's just, there's so much gold in there.
And I think that if you can be honest with yourself and make fun of yourself, then it makes it so much easier. Like I don't care what I truthfully do not care what anyone thinks about what I post on social media, because ultimately everything I'm doing is to benefit my business, and my business benefits my family. And that's like my number one priority. So it's like, I'll dance. Like that video of me doing those dance, that was the worst video ever. I was so embarrassed, and a little behind the scenes if you've seen that clip. So that shot right outside our church, I used it because I had that big white wall. Right across the parking lot is a tire shop. Manly men. Like they're like, they have calluses all over their hand. Like they're men. And I'm in front of a camera dancing. And I know they're watching me. These are guys that I take. Yeah, no, it was. Yeah. It was something. So, but it's ultimately like, if this is truly something you want, just like we talked about earlier, you have to take that leap of faith, and you have to do the things that make you uncomfortable to grow outside of your comfort zone. That's the only way to do it, in my opinion.
People also don't know that, like, whenever I do go sit down and edit the videos, so like this last vlog, you were busy all week, so the only footage was on Friday.
Yeah.
But what people don't realize is, out of that 3 minutes that they saw, you had a 40-minute long clip, a 35-minute, like, so you were recording almost all day that Friday. But it's just, it's not. It's
crazy because if you don't do it, you don't know that even happens. Like before, and I mean, I kind of have an idea now. I try to get like, a couple hours every day, because then like in my mind, that's like a couple of minutes a day of the vlog. That's kind of how I think about it. There's this YouTuber I watch, Wild Homestead is his name. He's this actor that's like gone out to the woods and has built this cabin, is living completely off the land. And he just said in the last video I watched, he said something like, for an hour-long video, I shoot 10 hours worth of video for the week. And it's like, you don't realize that all that happens, because like, and I know you know that as the editor, but like people who listen and don't do this, they're like, what? That's crazy. Like, I can't believe that even happens. So
yeah, I mean, a 40-minute long clip will be you talking on the phone, and it's like a whole conversation trying to like quote this guy on insurance and see if you can land him as a client, and then that video gets cut down to like 9 seconds of just like you saying, "Hey, how's it going?" and then a
Yeah.
little bit of the in between, and then okay, talk to you later. Like it's because obviously there's two reasons why me as an editor I think I would cut that down. Is one, if it gets too repetitive, that's going to be a click off point for people.
Exactly.
And two, we're not going to expose like your entire process of landing clients because that's what separates you in the industry. So, but it's just. It's just people would never know that like you're sending me 3, 4, 5, 6 hours of footage every weekend and they're only getting 10 minutes of it or 12 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that, maybe that makes some business owners think, oh, well, I can't do that. Like I can't, like I literally have a camera set up right here. It's my phone. It's just recording this conversation because it's going to go in the vlog. Like I think that business owners have to get out of the mindset of I can't do this to I'm already doing the work. Let me just put up the camera and record it. Right. Because that's only like, it's not like I'm doing double work. I was going to do this podcast with you anyways. I might as well record the clip and put it on the vlog or have you put it on the vlog, you know? So I think that that's a mind shift that a lot of business owners can make. Well, let's get into a little bit more, as we kind of wrap up here. Let's get into, just small businesses in general. What is like, if you had the number one tip, and I know we've talked about personal brands, so maybe that is it. And maybe you can dive a little bit more into how a business owner can create a personal brand. You know, cause that's something I really struggled with at the beginning was like, do I want to create a personal brand of Maverick or do I want to create, you know, just the Bison Ridge? I ultimately went with the Maverick because I don't know where my career is going to take me. You know, I plan on being, you know, in a lot of different industries as I grow. And, you know, maybe I want to get into public speaking. Maybe I want to get into, you know, influencer marketing or whatever. And I'm not anywhere close to that. And I say that because like, I know that people may look at what I'm doing now and be like, that's Maverick's not an influencer, but you have to start somewhere. Right. And like, you have to be willing to leave it wide open like that. So maybe talk about like that balance. Maybe that's the question. What do they do a personal brand for themselves? Do they do a business page? What do you recommend typically?
Yeah. I don't personally, I think with the way social media is today, there is no such thing as separating that anymore because when you get down to it right now, this is for Maverick's brand, right?
Right.
But what's behind your head? What are we talking about? Why are we talking? So at the end of the day, Bison Ridge is Maverick. Maverick is Bison Ridge. So it's like it's the same thing as Steven, for example, because I do a lot of stuff, so I keep going back.
Yeah, for sure. No, you're good.
So he at one point he was just sitting down in a restaurant and making some silly little video talking about let's find the best burger in Oklahoma.
Right.
That's all it was. At one point, it was just like, why is this guy qualified to tell me what the best burger is in Oklahoma? Now it's like people are literally going to places just because he recommended them. So it's like, it grew, but it started out with just, why would I trust this guy on a burger? Like, what does he know about burgers? It's the same thing. It's like, at one point, somebody probably saw content from you and was like, why would I trust this guy about insurance? And then now you've got more videos out. It's like, oh, okay. This guy knows what he's talking about. They scroll your page and they see all the stuff, but you have to start.
Yeah.
And so I think number one is don't push yourself as a business owner to like push your business out of the picture or push yourself out of the picture. There's no reason to, because 90% of the content we consume nowadays is a personal brand, even if it is a business. Like, for example, Dana White is the UFC. The UFC is Dana White. Like,
right, exactly.
When you see Dana White, you know when he starts talking, he could just start talking in general, but you immediately know, okay, he's referring to the UFC because he is the UFC. So it's just like that. And you just like, the more you can do that, the better your business is going to be, because Dana White could step away from the UFC right now, and in 10 years, people would still see him and still be like, oh, the UFC. So at the end of the day, you're creating a personal brand no matter what. And so like the number one thing I would say is to just get started, figure out what works, like just start making videos. Like as business owners, we're constantly looking up different things, Googling things, watching social media, different things to try to better our business. Take some of that every day. I would say first thing is I would definitely get like a week's worth of content before you ever start. So I would say, and that's because when you're motivated at first, you're motivated to just get all this footage, right? I would just say, sit down, watch social media videos, write down 3 different videos that you liked each day for a week, and then go take those 3, pick your favorite one, make it your own, film it, and do that every day for a week or 5 days out of the week for the work week. And now you have content for, if you want to post one video a week, you have content for the next 5 weeks. If you want to post two, you have content for the next 2.5 weeks. If you want to post content every day, you're going to have to keep doing that every week anyway. So now you're on the next week, you're going to have to start the next week. But I would just say backlog yourself a week so that when there is a day where you're like, I really just don't feel like making content today, you still have stuff to pull from, which I know you do. I think you still have several videos you haven't even posted. So
I'm like right now, because I kind of break them down, and you know this, but I break them down in like 3 or 4 different sections. So I have, the viral clips and quotations of like the funny ones, right? The talking heads, obviously podcast clips and vlog clips. So we have 4 that I'm kind of working on every week. I think the viral clips, I'm like a month and a half ahead. Talking heads, I'm actually going to shoot tomorrow. So it's like, you're always trying to find a way to keep that bucket full. But I think once you kind of get into the rotation of doing it, it's like, that just becomes another part of your like work week, right? And I think it really becomes natural pretty quickly.
Yeah. Especially like when stuff comes up, you got sick, I got sick. We still had stuff to do. But we didn't have to put so much pressure on it because there was so much ahead. So like I'm flying out to San Diego on Sunday for a couple days for work, and I'm getting everything scheduled and done ahead of time, so I don't have to worry about it while I'm there. But if a lot of business owners probably don't have that luxury. They're probably working. I think at some point all of us want to scale to the point where we're working on the business and not in it.
Just had the conversation with my wife about that. It's huge.
Yeah, I'm still in that same stage right now. I just hired 2. So I have 3 subcontractors now that work with me. So like one of them's doing all the filming and stuff like that. But like then you also have to remember, like, if you expect a subcontractor to do 70%, they're going to do 50%, and you're already only expecting 70%. So if you think you're going to only have 30% left after, like that, I think that's like a big mistake too, that I thought was like hiring somebody or getting a subcontractor. I'm just going to immediately get like all this free time. But at the end of the day, it's, you don't. And it's like, you just have to continue to push through that kind of stuff. And just like, if you really want to start a personal brand and make content, you're going to do it. Like,
for sure.
If you really wanted to start a business, you were going to do it. And one day you just did it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same thing with content.
So let's talk about kind of success in this place. This is a question I had written down that I'm kind of changing a little bit, but I'm curious to see what your answer is to this. I kind of even mentioned a minute ago, like even the thought of me saying like, oh, influential marketing for like myself is a crazy thought because I know I'm not an influencer, right? But like, how do you, as the editor or as the marketer, the agency, how do you kind of judge success in this industry for your clients, right? Because like my success is going to look a lot different than what Stevens is or Billy Visco's is or your LA clients. We're all on different levels. So how do you kind of manage that success and help your clients, reach where they want to go next?
Yeah, I mean, obviously at the end of the day, growth is growth. So whether Billy Visco's gaining another 500,000 followers or Steven's gaining another 5,000 or you're gaining another 50, it's still the same level of growth. It's just at different levels. So I mean, I judge like the success based off of what I did. So like, I wouldn't count, like if you went out tomorrow and recorded and edited your own video and it got 1 million views, that's not counting towards like the growth. And at that point, I'm going to be thinking to myself, okay, how was he able to do that and I wasn't? What was different about that? Whatever, because you could go post brain rot content tomorrow and be at 1 million subscribers by the end of the year, but you'd be sending all your content to kids that they can't advertise to, so you'd be making $2,000 a month off of YouTube.
Right.
You could spend 5 years trying to grow this vlog, and at the end of the 5 years you could be making $20,000 a month off of ad revenue and be getting half that amount of views or whatever. So the growth really, it just depends on like, and I've talked to you about this before too, but like anytime I get a new client, the first thing I do is like, what are your goals? Like, what do you want out of this? Because there's certain people that I do videos with, like Steven's goals aren't to grow a huge YouTube channel and get rich and famous. It's to sell real estate.
Yeah.
As a result, he's gotten a lot of followers and has gotten him into the door at a lot of places, but that's his end goal. Your end goal is to get people to quote and to sell insurance policies. So at the end of the day, my goal is to bring that right audience to you so they can call you for insurance. But then if at the same time you get to 500,000 subscribers, great. Like that's just more revenue for you. That's just a bigger, better relationship we can grow together as two different
Definitely.
businesses and stuff like that. But yeah, at the end of the day, it just depends on what your end goal is, and then I kind of tailor what I do to match that end goal. If you told me you wanted to get rich and famous off of YouTube, I'd tell you to stop everything you're doing today and just start recording some of the stupidest stuff you'll ever see.
Right, exactly. Because there's different approaches for different games, right? Like you have to approach it the right way. And I think, like you said, like that's the power of working with someone like you who sees that, identifies that, and then works with you towards that. Because obviously, like there could be other editors that I didn't try to work with about it. I'm just saying, like if this was to have happened and they were only thinking, oh, this guy needs to become a YouTuber, they're not going to be worried about driving clients to me for auto and home quotes, right? But you're like, hey, I see that, I understand that that's what you're doing, want to do, so we're going to meet you there and help you get there. I think that's really, really powerful. What do you see YouTubers and influencer marketing looking like in the next 5 years? Obviously, we kind of talked about the changes coming down the pipe, and I know it's hard to be like, oh, I know exactly what's going to happen. But in your mind, where do you see it going? Like, what trends are you seeing? What do you think is going to be the next big thing that pops off?
Yeah, I think first and foremost is people probably don't realize it yet, but in the past, it's been influencers versus influencers to see who could make it to the top. Like I just helped a client recently. They're getting very close to getting monetized on YouTube, and only 6% of YouTube channels ever reach monetization. So
it's crazy.
It's just, and then like it's an even smaller number that makes money, and then an even smaller number that makes like a regular income off of it, and then an even smaller number that gets like get rich off of it.
I just looked up a stat the other day because I was just looking at YouTube stats, and it was like 1% ever reach 1 million followers. And like, as someone who, YouTube is my number one platform that I consume YouTube all day long. That's my platform. In my mind, like, oh, it's not easy, but there's a lot of YouTubers that reach that. But then when you look at how many YouTube channels there are, there's like an insane amount. Well, yeah, only 1% reach it because, there's only 100,000 that reach 1 million or whatever it is. So I think that's really crazy.
Yeah, there's like something like 100 billion hours of content put up every day.
It's crazy.
So, like, if you're, for example, that's just like, it's hard to explain. There's 7 billion people in the world. We would all have to watch like hundreds and hundreds of videos a day just to get one view on every video. Yeah, it's crazy. That's just daily. That's not including like when you go watch a video from 3 months ago, because that was the numbers 3 months ago. But yeah, it's just there's I couldn't see where it's going necessarily, but I can definitely see that like people need to tailor their content to include AI, or you'll get burnt out and left behind, because it used to be influencer versus influencer, whoever's to the top gets the followers, but now it's like influencer versus AI versus influencer, because there's different AI platforms and stuff like that are going to start helping YouTube channels grow and things like that you're going to have to compete against, but we're not at that level yet. But I mean, I just saw a thing today that like AI has like employees now that you can hire as like a sales manager or something like that.
It's insane.
I don't know. Two new things.
It's crazy.
I mean, I think everybody I know has used ChatGPT or regularly uses it.
Every day.
And it's just like I write contracts with people through ChatGPT. So there's just, you're going to be competing with, you just have to stay on top of the trends without, the hardest part of success for content is staying on top of the trends without like removing the personal brand you've already built. So staying on top of the insurance game trends without completely changing Bison Ridge's or Maverick's like content that's going to be the hardest thing to do. Yeah,
that's a great answer. Let's ask one more question, then we'll get into the Green Country questions. What's one mistake you see small businesses making scaling digitally? If you could be like, hey, if I could wave my magic wand and fix all these small businesses that aren't scaling digitally, or maybe you're doing it the wrong way, what would that be for you?
Yeah, I think, and I'm at this point now. That's why I was saying, like, I used to work with a lot of YouTubers, and I've kind of stopped doing that as much, because you have to figure out like what's worth your time and what isn't. And there are people out there who it is worth it to them to make $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year, just working with like 15 YouTubers and just constantly editing. When me having a family and having big goals and stuff like that wasn't an option for me. So I got like let go of a lot of my clients, or like when contracts expired, I let them expire or whatever. with a lot of different YouTubers, just because there's just too much time taken up editing videos. And so I've gotten more into, and I think like the number one thing that people do when they fail to scale digitally, especially in my space, is just not niching out. Like, you know what type of client you need to sell an auto policy to.
Right.
Like, I'm sure certain agencies do better with like older people, certain agencies do better with younger people. You know your demographics. There's no reason to try to change that. And then like the other thing that like I'm learning, I'm sure you're learning, is that like as a business owner, it's really easy to just say yes to every bit of revenue, but not all revenue is good revenue. Because not all time is spent the same. So I can get, like, for example, these aren't real numbers, but I could get a client for $2,000 a month and film, 4 videos a month, long form videos, and 10 short form videos a month for them and edit those. Or I can make $500 a month and edit 50 short form videos for a YouTuber and 10 long form videos. Like, it just, there's levels to it that you have to like realize, and you have to niche out and just realize that like there's a certain level that you are good with. Like, I personally put a lot of attention to detail to editing. So editing long 20, 30, 40 minute long videos is not an option for me at this point, because it's just going to take up all of my time. So just finding the right revenue streams that make sense for my business, and learning when to say no, or learning when to say like, hey, that's not a good fit. And
I think also, like you talked about earlier, learning also to divvy that out to other people, right? You talked about your subcontractors, being willing to actually be like, hey, it's not worth my time, but there is someone out there who loves doing this 30-minute long video, so let me subcontract them and have them do it for me. I think that's really big for businesses. Yeah,
especially because like I'm sure there's portions of your business that you being the sole operator have to do.
Yeah, there's parts of my business I hate.
Exactly. Same for me. I really, really like the logistics side of stuff and like going over the numbers, and I really liked whenever I set up my LLC and S Corp and like business bank accounts and funneling that money the right way and paying myself on payroll, and like I love doing that kind of stuff. I don't necessarily, and I love filming and I love editing like videos that I'm passionate about. I don't necessarily love sitting down with 3 hours of footage that I didn't film and trying to figure out what that videographer's vision was when they filmed it and all that stuff. But yeah, and like the bigger thing with niching out is like for example, if you just started tomorrow, you were just like, okay, we're just going to take every single client that ever comes to us and give them an auto policy and do this and do that, whatever. Then when you go to subcontract, originally, because I mean most businesses start with subcontracting because it's easier than full W-2 hiring. When you go to subcontract, you're going to hire somebody, train them for 3 weeks, they're going to be trained up, then you're going to hire somebody else. They have to be trained on a whole different thing because you didn't niche out right. Whereas if you niche out, that employee you already hired can train the new employee, and you can kind of sit back and work on the business rather than in it. And that's like a big thing for me, because when I first started subcontracting people, it was just like a whole random wide variety of things, and it's like I felt like I was teaching them something every single day. And it's not like I'm hiring like some nobody else. Like, they're skilled editors, they're skilled They just, you have to teach them your style. And the goal is to have it niched out well enough to where you can gain clients easier by being like, hey, I did this, this, and this for this business. And they're like, oh, okay, that's like my exact type of business. But there's also just that same, for my industry, there's also the same level of like, I also can't work with like every construction company in the area because then they're competing against each other with the same content. So it's just, you got to figure out your niche. Yeah, you got to figure out your niche, figure out your standard way of doing things. That way that it's easier to train and develop people into. And once you have a full team, then you can start implementing more things and varying like what you do a little bit more. But
for sure. No, that's a great answer.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Well, let's get into our Green Country 2-pack, the 2 questions we ask in every podcast. Obviously, you travel a lot, so I'm curious to hear, you guys are back in Oklahoma, not necessarily Green Country, but Oklahoma in general. So you guys, you've got all your videos edited. You don't have to do anything for that day. What are you and the kids and the wife doing? What's your perfect day in Green Country?
Man, it changes so often. I'll give you 2. So one is we always loved getting food, like whether we made it at home or if we go to the store and just get like subs or whatever, and going to like the gathering place.
For sure.
And just chilling outside, because if it's not raining, it's very nice weather, especially in the spring and summer. And then once you get towards like August, it's like it's it's like hell. But
Yeah.
But that's one thing. The other thing is we like to try something new, like constantly. So we literally, like my family personally, we will get in the car and we will literally drive around for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, and just drive around and look like, okay, where's
That's
things?
sick.
And then once we see something, we're like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
And yeah, so those are the two things we do, and that we've done that in every city we've been in. In LA,
That's awesome.
driving around for an hour though, we still only made it a mile. But
Yeah, it's a little bit different than being in Oklahoma, huh?
yeah, an hour in Oklahoma, we were like, oh crap, we're in Oklahoma City again.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, what is and I try to keep this as specific to Green Country as possible. I know you lived here and you have connections here. So what is one local spot here in Green Country that you feel like people maybe don't know enough about, or you want to give a shout out to?
Oh man,
What's one of those spots when you were driving around, trying to find somewhere with your kids and wife? What's that spot that you're like, oh, we found this and this is our new place?
I mean, well, I'll give you an activity and a restaurant.
Okay, cool.
So, activity, Tulsa Oilers football is
That's fun.
I feel like it's starting to get more popular, but like it's still, we need to fill the stands out because it's a lot more fun.
Yeah, I've never been to a game. That would be so fun.
It's so much fun. I have a connection there with this guy, and he put us down on the barrier of the field.
That's cool.
And so, actually, the way that I got in contact with Billy Visco was I was at the game. Josh Crockett caught a touchdown. He spiked the ball. Well, at the Tulsa Oiler football games, if you catch a ball, you keep it. And so he spiked the ball. It bounced up. It landed literally perfectly in my hand. I'll send you the video later today. I have a video.
Okay.
I screen recorded from their
Yeah.
YouTube video. And you can just see me grab the ball.
That's so funny.
We still have it. My son's torn it up since then because he loves football.
That's awesome. Yeah.
We had that, and Josh Crockett is actually on the special teams for the Tulsa Oilers, or he was last year. And I followed him on Instagram. He followed me back because of that video of me catching the ball. And then he became friends with Billy Visco when Billy Visco became a coach for the Tulsa Oilers. And so I reached out to Josh and was like, hey, put me in contact with Billy Visco. I want him on like this podcast that I was filming at the time. And he agreed to come on only because he had his own podcast that he wanted help with editing.
Yeah.
So I started editing that for him, and then the rest is history.
That's cool.
But
That's
yeah,
sick.
I would say people might know about Tulsa Oilers football games and stuff like that, but I feel like they think it's boring because it's indoor football. Whatever. Like, no, it's a lot of fun. The energy is crazy.
I'll have to take my voice.
And the more people we get there, the better. And it's
awesome.
cheap. It's like you can probably get in with, you have three boys?
Yeah.
So you five could probably get in for $100.
Oh, that's nice.
It's not bad. And the OK Center, like pricing for food.
Yeah.
And then a restaurant, we call it the Outsiders Restaurant because it's by the Outsider's house, but it's called El Rio Verde, I think. It's a Mexican place, and it's like authentic Mexican, and their food is amazing. So
that's awesome, man. That's awesome. That's awesome. I think I've been to El Rio Verde. It sounds familiar. Is it like kind of in like is it like by the hospital? A hospital over there? Does that sound right or no?
It's right in the hospital, and it's like in the middle of a neighborhood.
Yeah. I've been there. That place is really good. It's
really
very,
good.
very delicious. Okay, Alex. Well, let people know. They're watching this podcast. I have some people who've told me, hey, we want to kind of get started. What is the process? So you're the man that edits all my stuff. So let them know what's the best way to get in contact with you. What's the best way for them to kind of follow you and keep up with you on social media? Yeah.
So I like 90% of my business has come from Instagram DMs, whether they reach out to me or I reach out to them. So it's Alexander W. Cobb on Instagram. If anybody wants to DM there, or just follow me. And I don't post content recently, but I'm going to start posting content again.
Cool.
But yeah. Other than that, it usually just through my website too, which I think
Awesome.
is changing, so I won't plug it. But
Okay.
but yeah, Instagram's the best way.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on, everyone. I think this was a great conversation to kind of give you a peek behind how the content that we're making is being made and a peek into what Alex is doing over in his business. So, I appreciate you guys following along. If you haven't already, as I always say, please like this video, like the channel, subscribe to the channel. We'll have another episode coming out next week, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks so much.